All right, this is a quick 2-minute introduction to scatter plots. So scatter plots show data elements along two measurements here, an X and a Y category. Here we're going to use the iris data, and we're going to use the simple scatter plot command, which is part of our matplotlib library, which we import in most of our systems. And we're plotting two values. We're using the iris data set, and we're plotting sepal length along here and the sepal width along here. And then each of these dots then is one of our rows, one of our flower species, and it shows what its sepal length is and what its sepal width is here. And it shows all the so each each point is a different flower here. Now we can actually color this with the species, so we're using the iris species to color this. But the iris species is our words and not colors, so we actually have to create a color map here. So we create a color map here of each of the type species of flowers and what color we want it. So we need to create this color map above, and then we can use that to generate this map with these colors. So that's a little problem here, but we can do that. And similarly with the cancer flowers, or the cancer tumors, we can create a different colors, one for malignant and one for benign, and then we can scatter plot that out. And I just grabbed two of the first two measurements, the radius mean and the texture mean here. And again, here's where we're plotting the diagnosis, and we're using this color map here to plot this out. Now sometimes you get overlap here, and so sometimes we want to set this to transparent. And so if I comment this one out and go to the next one here, here I've added an alpha attribute, and an alpha attribute is how transparent the values are, and it goes from 0 to 1. So 1 is the default and no transparency. So 0.2 is a lot of transparency. So here we can see it's easier to see overlapping data points and stuff like that. So sometimes with scatter plots it's nice to be able to set the alpha value for transparencies. Now, because we don't always want to create our own color maps here, we often rely on a more complex system, and that's the SNS faucet grid, which has scatter plots in it. Now, the faucet grid is actually generally used to make a grid of a number of different graphs, but we can use it to make a single graph. So again, here we'd say faucet grid, the data, we're using iris data, and then what we want the colors to be, and here we're using the species. And again, with the cancer data, you'd use the diagnosis instead of species. And then here we specify our scatter plot, and then what two attributes we want to plot on this here. And we can also say if we want to add a legend here to match the colors. And so this is a little nicer plot. By default, it's kind of small, so we also add an element of size equals 6. I think the default size is 4, which is quite a bit smaller here. So I've just also added the size equals 6 here. Now this is spread out on multiple lines. So one thing you'll see in Python is you'll see one line, and then we'll use a backslash, and then we'll continue that kind of part of the statement on the next line, and then a backslash and another. So this is all one statement with some backslashes in there to kind of spread it out. But again, if you just copy this, you can reuse this again. We set the data in here, and then the values appropriately.